Birds of the Brian Birds Home Selling Team. Today we're going to go over how to maximize Google My Business and how to generate some leads. Brian, you're always talking to everybody in the office about how if someone were to search you on the internet, on Google your name, what are they going to find, right? So that's what we're going to kind of go over today, correct?
Absolutely. We're going to try and trim this down and make this really relevant. And what we want to do is make sure that when a client, customer, past client, future customer, any of those details start looking for you, that we're going to have easy access for them to be able to connect and be able to contact you, get all the information they need, and just start that transaction moving forward.
Sure. Yeah, because like you said, I mean, if you were to just Google my name, for instance, right now, we already know you're going to find somebody's bigger, stronger, and better looking, and that's not what I want to see. I want them to pull me up and see my business, and I want them to direct towards how I can best suit them.
Yeah, so let's throw that into category, and let's kind of put yourself on blast here for a second. And here it comes. So here is just Google, right? If I just open up Google and I type in old Nick Haggerty, right? What populates?
Starting to sweat a little bit.
All right. So apparently, there is a gentleman with a 1G that comes into category, right? I have you on your face here, and you can tell that that's probably not what you were aiming for. Would you agree?
I'm going to say that we're at a solid fail now, I think is what we're going for. So I'm glad that we decided to pull my name.
All right, so let's use that same category and let's put in the basis of, let's put, even to the point of your full name. ICH, if I can spell, right? Once again, we don't even know who that guy is, okay?
No, but I wish I had his hair.
Yeah, that's fair. So here's the thing. Let's put our category into, if we typed in my name into Google, and if a person were to look me up, if you'll notice that first little top line here is key, because we need to identify that in the market, people need to know what's going on, okay? So right up front, they're going to see the fact that I am a real estate agent. I just type in my name, it automatically pre-populates. But if I press enter, then what happens is this large branch on the right hand side here pops up with all my information, and you notice Brian Birds automatically populated my entire name. Now that is one key here, is that having your name in your business name is key, so it identifies directly. And this is somewhat of been a misnomer for a lot of times. People said don't use your name, people said use your name. I always do suggest that you take that time and put that name into play. So.
Sure. And now I also see too on the search engine there, it seems like it has you over and over and over again. Is that by design as well?
Correct. So a little bit of that is directory based. So the key here is we need to make sure that everything is matching. Okay, so all these phone numbers need to be matching all the phone numbers that are in all these queues. All right. The other side of that equation is when we actually go in and start working on this profile, there are some connections that we'll make. For instance, things like Century 21, Facebook, Zillow, and so on and so forth. So those things will kind of come into category, and those are things that we need to kind of pay attention to, so we can have ourselves a successful connection with you and the customer, because we were having this discussion not too long ago that people don't remember phone numbers anymore.
Right.
They may remember vanity numbers, right? Maybe. I have a pretty easy number, 751-1500. But even that is not as easy as just remembering the name, or at least a variation of my name, in order to get to me on Google. And in that category, let's put that in on the blast a little bit here. Let's just type in if I spelled my name wrong, right? So this right here doesn't populate the way, and this is something we're actually working on. If somebody spells my name wrong, right, it doesn't pop up until this right here, and that's been an actual work-on process to try and make that happen.
But I still see over to the right, it does show, if you go back up a little bit, scroll back up.
It does have, yes. So that is one thing. So we had to add what is called an alias into our business listing in order to be able to get that information to the right here. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And if I type in Brian Birds real estate, it gets even better, and that's what we're aiming for, is just to make it one step better. And if you notice at that point, then it actually does populate into the system.
Now, okay, so a big question on this is, these are all things that you can do at your level, or I could do at my level. I don't have to hire a business to get this taken care of. Do I have to have a staff or a team to do this? I can literally go onto Google and take care of this myself.
So the answer is you can do both, absolutely.
Okay.
You could do this by yourself, you could do this at your leisure, and we're going to kind of go through a glancing overview of that, and we'll break this up into a few classes so people can see that detail. But yes, absolutely, this is possible to be done at anybody's level, from starting the business to veteran in the business over time. And there's no first day to start on it. You can start it at any level of that business.
Okay.
So, yeah, absolutely. And remember, guys, here's the key. If you're not finding this information, if somebody just met with me or wants to hear, or they get referred, what's going to end up happening next is somebody's going to type in their name, right? Now, I will use your affiliate on your team as Andrew Haggerty, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I do that and I type him in, he populates, right? But what's missing in this profile? There's things that are missing. There's pictures that are missing. There's details. There's the amount of Google reviews that he's aimed for, right? There's a few details that are missing in his profile. Now, this is obviously much better than where yours was populating, but it doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to get the greatest exposure possible, right? And if you throw on competition on here, that's when it really gets questionable. Now, I'm not going to blast any competition out there right now, but I'm going to say that if a competitor is beating you, they're beating you in more than one fashion. One, they're beating you in presence, and two, they're beating you in the game of where it's going and how you need to be successful in it.
Well, absolutely. We need to endorse this. I mean, the internet's not going anywhere, right? And that's one of those things where it comes down to is we've got social media and all the rest of this. But the first thing someone does, like you were saying before, if I went over and talked to somebody, or if I met somebody at the coffee house and gave them my card, whatever, what's the first thing they're most likely going to do? And in today's world, it's probably going to be Google my name, right?
They probably won't even remember to keep your card. They'll probably dump your card and look you up later whenever they remember at a computer or on the phone.
And misspell my name.
And misspell your name, absolutely.
Okay.
And that's the key, right? So you need to make sure that those aliases are all put into play. So let's put that into a little bit of category. So when we're on this actual page, I actually have it already open, so I'm going to go to here. Now this is called Google Business. You can get to this by just simply typing in business.google.com. Once you're in this profile, you would actually create that profile, and you click on Manage Now, open up, and start this setup process to actually build up your profile. Now, in this case, I already have a profile, so we're not going to build that out in this particular area. Mm-hmm. I'm actually going to go in and open up my own personal profile.
Okay.
So if I do that, this is what the dashboard looks like after you've gone through some of the initial processes. Now, as you can tell, I manage a few businesses here. So I'm going to work into the business that I am actually working on, and you'll notice there's these verified points. Now, that is one key part to Google. Google's not just going to give you the ability to go searching on the internet. They need to have some information to make sure that it is you and that you do own that business. That way people can't hijack your business in this crazy world that we deal with today. So in that, once you get into managing the location, which I'm going to do here, I start to work through my process. Now, this is pretty tab oriented, okay? As you're working on it from your computer. Now, you can also build it out from your mobile iOS apps or any of those, but as you're building it out, you want to be successful in it and start at point 1 under your home section, and this has a few details set up. Now, if you'll notice at the top, they do have, currently with COVID in place, they do have some things that you can add into about where COVID's at, your COVID update, things of that sort, right? You also have a big point here, and this won't be registering right away, but this is your performance of that ad, or not that ad, but that Google business profile, and how it's getting impact. And you'll notice here, 5,000 people are looking at my profile on a monthly basis, 3,000 are searching for me, and then 5,000 are pushing up additional activity.
Well, that's actually pretty impressive. I was going to ask if there's a way that we can get some quantifiable results on if this is actually beneficial for our personal business, and well, clearly it is.
Yeah.
So
And absolutely. And here's what I want to put into perspective. You got to remember that people are only going to start with one step, right? They're not type in your name. If they miss you, they're going to move on to another step. They're going to start looking through other resources.
Sure.
So the key is to keep them relevant throughout the entire transaction by making sure this information is up to speed. Now, once that home section is built out, you have a bunch of things on this dashboard. Now, this is all fed by everything that's going on over on the left-hand side. Okay, I'm going to start from the bottom up and basically run through this fairly quickly just so we can make sure we stay on a timeline. But basically starting at the very bottom of the profile section, I'm going to set up with users. So this would allow me to add managers. As you can tell, I have some managers of my business, and that way they can actually facilitate and change things in my business listing. So anywhere from our viral marketing, our marketing partner, to some other marketing partners, and then some members of my team. Now, once that's created, the other part is you can define a website. Now, Google allows you to build out a website. We don't actually use this, but this is something, if you don't have a live website, you could use this method. Okay. Next part is going to be your services. These are things that you offer to the community. Now, if you'll notice, some people will have services and some people will have products. It's based on which selections you put into Access. I have in here that I am real estate agency, real estate appraisal issues, real estate agents, real estate appraiser, real estate consultant. I'm trying to find categories that fit my business. That's the key here. Okay.
If someone needed help in certain aspects of that, you can help facilitate that. Obviously, the real estate itself, but
more so in the respect of people knowing. Okay, not everybody knows what a realtor is. Sure. Not everybody knows what a real estate agent is. They might call them by different names, and they might ask things about appraisal value. And you want to be those people that come top of mind during those precepts. So it's more to the fact of understanding that people get to you in different formats. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's why I've picked a couple of these. And keep in mind, when you add additional categories, when you type in things like real estate, if you'll notice, things are starting to populate. Surveyor, developer, attorney, school, so on and so forth.
So it's going to help you out with the filling out portion.
Correct. Next one is going to be our photos. Now this, I think, is one of the most underused methodologies in this business profile. Keeping your photos on point. Now I want to point out a couple things. If you'll notice here, this photo at this very top left here has been seen 11,600 times. 11,600 times somebody has looked at this photo. And to that extent, 640, 229, 726, all the way down, some of these are seeing tremendous amount of impact. You see where that would come in some value.
Now, and this is all through the Google page. This isn't off of social media. This is all off of straight up off that Google
search
page. Now, when they pull it up, are these the pictures that populate right away, like when you pull it up, or is this once you click on your page?
So let's scroll back here a second and take a look at this. So remember, when I type in my name, okay, what's going to end up happening is you have all this stuff at the top, right? But if you scroll down to the bottom a little bit, actually they moved it onto the second page, or if you just click on images, this is where those photographs are being viewed, right? Gotcha. And this is what starts to hijack the Google algorithm and put you as top of relevance by having enough photos out there. And there is a piece to that photo that needs to be put into play. One, adding what is called metadata, right? So every photo has a bunch of data, where it was taken, what it was taken for, what benefits it had in it, right? So a lot of those things come into the category that if you are using this successfully, what's going to end up happening is you're going to hijack the metadata. Right? You create this if you open a photo, if you ever press that edit button, it allows you to change the name. But if you scroll down a little bit further, it also allows you to change the details of that photo, like where it was taken, what it was done, so on and so forth. Adding in content, right? Think of it like a blog. Somebody searches for something on the internet. You want to have as much relevancy when it comes to those particular items. Okay. And that's where this makes that world of difference, and that why we've hijacked all the details under my name. Okay. Now, photos, once again, if you'll notice, they're pretty correlating. The ones that I just showed you pretty much pop up the same way here. Right. Okay. You can also break down and put in video content as well, and you can also add in things like reviews to get a little bit of extra exposure. Doing some, using a Canva program or something like that to just add a little bit more value. Okay. So once again, I think photos is a very strong tool. We went through and we've taken all the pictures of our clients, stuff that's going on in the business, even photographs of the building. If you'll notice, this has been seen 4,000 times. Why has this photo been seen so many times? Is because this is labeled as a business photo, meaning if people are looking for us, this is stuff that pops up when they look at the Google Maps section by typing in Brian Birds and they type in where is or any of those details, or if they look at Google Maps itself, and then from here, right, they search it on their phone and they type in Brian Birds. What ends up happening is that same thing pops up.
Oh wow!
But
Straight
as you're scrolling through, remember those photos. Do you notice where it says all inside by owner? So I'm giving 360-degree views, stuff like that. See what I'm saying? So you can actually give somebody some comfort in their search and be able to identify, right? Instead of having to necessarily tell people, a lot of people use their phone to identify some of those categories.
Okay.
So that is the photo section, and I think that, like I mentioned, that's probably one of the most powerful thing. And you'll even notice where some of them have been duplicated, and that's because maybe we put it in a post and we also uploaded it directly. Okay. Next item is going to be your messages. Now this is something that you need to have the install of your app on your phone, but this basically comes through as a text message and allows you to be able to see that text message on your phone. It's actually in the app to be able to communicate with customers. Okay. Next one is probably the most important, and it's probably the most overlooked. So, Nick, tell me, you like to buy a lot of equipment, right? And when you buy exercise equipment or anything like that, or anything that's going to help you out, what's the first thing you do about that equipment?
Well, I'm actually looking to get a squat rig right now, and yeah, last night I went around and I was going all through the Google and looking for reviews and looking for pictures that people have already set up inside their in their house. But yeah, the reviews is definitely one I'm checking on. I want to read both.
Do you also pay attention if reviews are ever replied to? That's one thing that I never really took into concept. But if you've replied to those reviews, it becomes a lot more powerful. So as you can tell in our profile here, if you look at the entire detail, give me a second, let me throw this back over onto the main screen here. If you look at that profile, you want to be able to reply to most of them. And if you'll tell, I've replied to most. I haven't replied to probably about 10 or 12 that I need to get in and do. But at the end of the day, that is what changes that whole dynamic, especially if you ever happen to get a negative review. Mm-hmm. That is where it changes that whole dynamic and making sure that people know what's going on, right? They need to know why that was a negative review, and it can be a positive. It can be spun into a positive if you explain it correctly. Now, correctly is the key here. We've had this discussion many a time. There is a correct way, in my opinion, and pretty much in Google's opinion, of how to approach, and there's an incorrect way in how to approach.
We don't want to be challenging anyone to a street fight.
Argumentative, or saying, no, I didn't do that, or calling them out on what maybe they did, probably not the best way. Whereas if you communicate and show that you provided an example of completion, like you fixed it, mm-hmm. that's going to have a lot more success.
Well, and that makes sense, because I guess in today's age, this is pretty much our resume, right? On the Google there, you're going to look at it, and that's going to tell us how we do it, how we operate, and I like that, answering even if someone's upset, coming back to it.
So, reviews. Now, you have to ask for reviews. That is some keys in here. And as you'll notice on your homepage, you can actually share out your profile to receive reviews, okay? So if you want to get any information or get more reviews, you can share this review form right here to push that. And that's something you need to do once that profile is complete, okay? Insights is my favorite thing. I'm a big old dork and a nerd, and I love knowing where stuff happened. So I love to know that I had 1,335 people come to me direct. I love the fact that I know that 1,900 people found me through a product, a service, or just a general search. And then I know that I have only 12 people that came through on a branded search, right? Customers who find your listing searching for the brand related to your business, okay? So Century 21, in essence, brought me that basis, okay? Now, I want to make sure that we can also promote. We haven't turned on the advertising for this, but you can directly here. That can be another class that we can run through. Here's the really cool part. So once you get used to this and kind of working on it, this will show you how people got to you, right? 73 people came from Realtor El Paso. So it's actually outpacing my own personal name in how they're getting to me. El Paso Realtor, and so on and so forth. This is done through SEO, and we'll get into that a little bit on a different class, but that's how we're building it, based on I'm attacking these terms in the content that I'm putting out there. Okay. Next part, this is obviously really important. This is your info. This is where you need to start. And I went backwards to forwards to kind of figure this out, but this is where we need to actually create the value. What's our location? What's our areas? What's our hours of operation? Any of those details if we add any additional items here. And then what days we're actually closed throughout the year, as well as things like address and editing things like this. So this @ symbol, this is a powerful thing that a lot of people miss. So they give you a generic one up front. You can go in and manually edit that to make it a little simpler. So your @ symbol makes it just a little bit easier to find you online. Also things like appointment links. So if you use a Calendly or something like that, that can be a great resource to add in so they can book a calendar item with you directly. And then adding in those services, things like highlights, health and safety items. So we put on here that masks are not required in our office. We've put in here that temperature checks are not required. This is some of the new COVID features that have been added in lately. We also have some additional content. And then when we opened, this is valuable because this shows how long you've been in business.
Sure.
So Google's giving you credibility. Okay. And then over on the right hand side, you have view on search, view on maps, and then sharing your business profile as well. And then you can close your business or remove your listings as well. Google Assistant calls. So this is something that's really powerful. Think about it. How many people have a Google Home nowadays? Few?
Probably majority.
Okay, so if they have that Google Home, I mean, Nick, you've had this conversation a couple times that your kids do most of their stuff through Siri, right? So
We're apparently shopping online on Amazon too. But
yeah, and what it comes down to is, what if they want to call Nick Haggerty? Well, if you allow, but see, as a realtor, right? If they want to call you as a realtor, they can now pump you into Siri or into, not Siri, but into Google Homes, and it will call you just by saying, call Brian Burns. And now you've attached that to this system. Make sense?
Okay.
So once again, just a few extra features, a few extra cool points that kind of come into play. Make sure this profile is filled out to its fullest capability, because that will make a world of difference when you're actually working through the process. Now this next part is something that I feel is very valuable, and keep in mind that it doesn't see like a ton of action, but this is what gives you your Google juice, right? So for those of you that have blogs, put the blogs here, okay? And this is called a offer or a post or what's new or events, okay? So I've had 75 views, which isn't a lot, to be perfectly honest. But this gives me a lot more relevance when it comes to map views and stuff like that. So even though they're not looking at these posts, they are giving me relevance with Google because of my consistency in posting. And we do, on average, about 1 to 2 a week at minimum. Okay, and keep in mind, these are pretty basic. They're just our blog posts that we've created a picture for, and that's about the extent. We also have some offers in here, what's new, any events we can put in there as well. Okay, so closings, so on and so forth. And it kind of gets, just once again, people like content. Mm-hmm. Google loves content. And that's what we're trying to accomplish, is just make sure that we're seeing that content as relevant as possible.
So if you were to go dark for a while, then you're gonna go farther back on that search engine, what you're saying. So if you stop putting that out there, you would not show up, obviously, the highest.
So it has been proven that Google likes consistency. So the more consistent you are, the more successful Google will give you in search results, absolutely.
Okay.
So, excellent. Well, that's pretty much the breakdown of what it is to build out that profile. Now, obviously, there's a lot more robust nature to some of the backline details, and that's kind of the stuff that, will take some time to learn, because I'll be honest, there's probably been 6 updates on this in the last week that need to be addressed.
Sure. Well, and like you said, we can cover that in deeper in some other classes, but if I'm going to go out there today and make my business more stronger right now, like you said, I get on that Google My Business, and I start up, what is the most important thing that I do right now? If I wanted to do that, and how long would it take for me to put a decent Google My Business page up?
So the first part, just to create the business itself, it's going to take you probably about a week. So they'll need to send a letter to verify, and then once it's verified, that's when you will get what Andrew had, which is just the profile,
Right.
right? And then you have to start spending time and energy into building that profile to the maximum capability.
So I send out for my verification. In that week time, obviously I can start writing up my profile, getting all my ducks in a row here.
So you can actually build your profile before it goes live on there. So yeah, absolutely. During that time, you can be building it as well.
And like you showed us, just get on there from the bottom up, right? Start adding in some photos and then changing those things and all that stuff. So when it comes back, I'm ready to rock. So roughly in a week. Now when that verification comes back and I get started, I mean, when I'm back there, I'm not a computer expert, right? But you showed us, it pretty much walks me through that process.
So when you go through your first profile setup, it will actually walk you through a lot of questions on the top line.
Okay.
So it will get you to set it up, but it will be just like what Andrew had. Very bland, very basic.
Okay.
It's the detail work that will get you that extra exposure. Now, you don't have to do the extras, but you should, because it will make you just that much more successful.
Sure, but like I said, yeah, always improve our position once we get it. But once we get that thing going, we're looking pretty sharp, and then after that, we can just continue to work on that thing, just like you said, consistency, right? And we start putting out those blogs and things of that nature. But I guess my biggest thing here is I shouldn't be. If you look at all of what you just showed us, it's pretty scary. But I can get started, and then I can just improve weekly. Right?
Absolutely.
Would you suggest I get everything together, or just get cracking on that?
I'd say spend the time just getting it started. If you start it, you will feel, and you'll find things that you really enjoy about it. You'll find things that you don't really enjoy about it. But if the more detail you put into it, and the more time you spend on it, the better relevance you'll have in the market, for sure.
Okay. Great. I mean, this is powerful stuff. I can definitely see where I need to do it, since 2 G's and Haggerty doesn't even show up on Google. So I guess I better
Correct.
crack
Yeah,
it.
and I think that hopefully that is the most relevant part, is that you realize that your name is actually getting beat out by a person with 1 G, whereas my name misspelled is still bringing relevance.
I don't even know if that was necessary, but yes, that's a good point.
Well, and that just shows you how quick somebody can also hijack
Very
your
true.
information.
Very true.
And when I say hijack, it's not maliciously hijack, but they can get that information. For instance,
Strategic.
if there was a Brian Birds, which you noticed there was, I'll still get more relevance than him eventually, because I'm going to continue to work on mine where he may fall out of relevance.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that picture is a big one too, because if you go to mine, you're going to see a bunch of guys with a lot of hair, whereas yours is fair. So I like it. So all right. Well.
Excellent.
Well, thanks guys for joining us today. Obviously, Brian gave some great stuff. Now, for all the realtors out there, let's take a look at this. Take some time out there and let's improve our personal business. But man, I'll tell you what, I'm excited about it, and I hope you guys got a lot out of this. And we're going to continue to push these out. And on this very class 2, we're going to put some deeper stuff. So again, thanks for joining us. Again, Nick Haggerty with Century 21 Haggerty, and Brian with Brian Bird's Home Selling Team.
Thanks, guys.